The man of the moment, Mr. Chairman, set the record straight. What happened? You're censoring people over there now. You're afraid. You're on the verge of going after CBS.
Well, President Trump has been so far ahead of the curve on so many issues, as you noted, on the economy, on border security, and perhaps nowhere else, when he called out the legacy media for being fake news. And yesterday, the American people got to see that on full display. And it's why people have more trust and faith in gas station sushi today than they do in the legacy news media. What we've said, as we've been very clear, is that broadcasters have a unique right and privilege, a license.
So it's very interesting because now President Trump has moved into the next phase, which is battling people here. He posted this, which completely freaked out the left. He posted this: President Trump is reshaping the media. And he put gone as the first section, and gone, PBS defunded, NPR defunded, Terry Moran out at ABC, massive layoffs at the Washington Post, Lester Holt out at NBC, Joy Reid out at MSNBC, Stephen Colbert leaving CBS, no more biased fact-checking at Facebook/Meta, Chuck Todd out, big decline in MSM ratings, Jim Acosta out at CNN, John Dickerson out at CBS, and he goes into different reforms they are working on right now. And then down here he talks about winning. Trump world, The Guardian, Trump is waging war against the media and winning. Trump's media pit bull is off the leash. This fourth estate, as they call it sometimes, is terrified. And the Democrats are terrified for them. Because without illegals voting and without the media being, their lapdog, they're done. And so another brouhaha popped up, because this is what Brandon Carr posted. And it was because of this post. Do I have the post that he referred to? It was this post that President Trump put up. And here it is. It says, yet again, and then let me make sure you see the logo so you know it was him. An intentionally misleading headline by the fake news media about the 5 tanker planes that were supposedly struck down at airport in Saudi Arabia and of no further use. In actuality, the base was hit a few days ago, but the planes were not struck or destroyed. 4 of the 5 had virtually no damage and are already back in service. 1 had a slightly more damage, but would be in the air shortly. None were destroyed, or even close to that, as the fake news said in the headlines. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal in particular, and other low-life papers and media actually want us to lose the war. That's the saddest thing that we have to accept as reality. They do want us to lose the war. They have made clear where they stand on all of this, and it's completely awful. Their terrible reporting is the exact opposite of the actual facts. They are truly sick and demented people that have no idea the damage they cause the United States of America. Fortunately, as proven by our great and conclusive election win in 2024, the people of our country understand what is happening far better than the fake news media. One of the problems people have, even in chats, is they have no friggin' clue what free speech even means. None. Free speech means you get to say what you want, but it doesn't mean we have to listen. It doesn't mean anybody has to hear you in terms on the private world. We can delete you. We can ban you. We're not playing your silly games. SV, ban, bam. Roaring Rage, bam. Get you out of here. We don't care. Your free speech is at the beck and call of what we determine we want our people here to consume. We are not going to accept people who want to disrupt. Period. Don't want you. Don't need you. And so in that regard, people don't understand, just because we're MAGA, just because we're conservative, doesn't mean we don't understand the definition of free speech. We completely understand it. It's just not what you think it is. And so in regards to the media, you pretty much got the same thing going on. They think that they can lie and say whatever they want with complete impunity. and they're in for a big surprise. So President Trump posted that, and Brendan Carr, the director of the FCC, posted this, and they're wigging, and they're terrified. Here we go. Broadcasters that are running hoaxes and news distortions, also known as the fake news, have a chance now to correct course before their license renewals come up. I want to stop right there. I want to stop at that first sentence and bring your attention to something. License renewals. Let that be something that you're thinking about right now when you're thinking about free speech. License renewal. You are able to broadcast on the airwaves because you have a license. It's not free speech. It's not First Amendment. You are licensed. Want me to prove it to you? What would happen on any of the broadcast networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, if somebody sat in front of a teleprompter and for 30 minutes said, F this, F that, N-word, C-word, and just went on and on, talked about that? What would happen? Poof. But Barry, it's free speech. Guess not. Guess not. You can't sit there and say, F you, you're a C, you're an N-word, you're this, you're that. No, that's not even editorial. Why? Can you not do that? Because you have a license. It is not a right. You do not have a right to broadcast. And that's the problem that these idiots don't understand. You want to have a right to say whatever you want? Start a podcast. Joy Reid, say whatever you want. Crazy. YouTube, well, they might stop you. Get on Rumble. Go on Twitter. Say whatever you want. Blue Sky, that's completely different. You don't need a license to broadcast on YouTube. You need to have a license to speak openly on a televised network. But you don't hear anybody saying that. So let's continue. The law is clear. Broadcasters must operate in the public interest, and they will lose their licenses if they do not. And frankly, changing course is in their own business interests, since the trust in legacy media has now fallen to an all-time low of just 9% and our ratings disasters. That's huge too. Why is that so big? Why is it so big that trust has fallen to an all-time low of just 9% and our rating disasters? Because there's no money if there's no eyeballs. The eyeballs are only going to be there if you bring good content, and the advertisers are only going to pay for you if you have the eyeballs. No eyeballs, no advertisers. No advertisers, no money. Their ratings are in the toilet. People know they're crap. And my personal belief is that some of these advertisers have been using investors' money, good investment money, stockholders' money, to buy ads on these things, almost like a payoff. I'm waiting for the other hammer to drop when RFK Jr. says no more pharmaceutical ads on TV. It'll end. See, the business isn't about free speech. The business is about generating revenue. That's what people aren't understanding. Your business isn't because I can say whatever I want, I'm on television. That's not true. You've been allowed to get away with it. But as soon as the advertisers realize, oh man, we're in trouble, I can't be associated with this, then you're not going to be able to pay Rachel Maddow $20 million. You're not going to be able to pay some of these people. That's why they're leaving. And then what happens when they leave? They start podcast and shit the bed. Because they are realizing at this point the network carried them. They didn't carry the network. You go off on your own, anybody can get some lights, a microphone, and a camera, and you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And so the advertisers that I get, the advertisers that YouTube also allows me to get, are based upon the fact that you guys are here. If you guys weren't here, even with all the attacks and everything we get, if you guys weren't here and weren't here for a certain period of time, guess what happens? I'm done. And so I know that part of me being able to have you here is, Barry, bring as much as you can that you can validate and show people, because once you lose trust, Alex Jones, the money's not there. These people are scrambling. Some of them spent millions putting their structure of their media companies together. I'm talking about the podcast network, Podcast Bros. And we're watching a complete dysfunctional group of people. And I just heard someone say in a video, whether he's lying or not, that he can't pay his internet. And I'm thinking to myself, how could he be such a big podcaster getting so many views and he can't pay his internet? Think about that for a second. And it's an easy thing you can see because, are there advertisers? Well, if you're not on YouTube, you're probably just going to be on Rumble or X, and X will pay, but even that can't sustain everything. So it's all about ratings. It's all about eyeballs. And Brandon Carr is trying to tell them that. Your ratings are just 9%. The American people have subsidized broadcasters to the tune of billions of dollars by providing free access to the nation's airwaves. I don't even know what a license costs, but what would you think if I got a broadcast license and I was able to talk on TV? I'd have millions. These people have completely exhausted their privilege, their license. They don't have the right to be on television. They have the privilege. Big different word there. But right now they're arguing and they're screaming because they know their privilege is at risk. When a political candidate is able to win a landslide election victory after in the face of hoaxes and distortions, there is something very wrong. It means the public has lost its faith and confidence in the media, and we can't allow that to happen. Time for change. That's all he said. Something's wrong here. We got to change this. And then the freak out just began all over the place. Saw this by, what's her name? Elizabeth Warren. And hundreds of them were out there screaming. Constitutional Law 101. It's illegal for the government to censor free speech. It just doesn't like what we're saying about Trump's war. This threat is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. You don't get it, Liz. It's not about free speech. You have a license. You can tweet lies all you want. You can put stuff out there 24/7, lies. No, there's no license for X. It's not about free speech. And I think there's a lot of people in our chat that sometimes don't understand the lines of free speech and free enterprise. Now you get the difference here. It's a business. You pay a license. You're allowed to broadcast under these auspices. And for so many years, we haven't defined or enforced what those auspices are. And now you've got an FCC director that's like, we're going to have to look at this. You're lying constantly. It's not about what Trump is doing or what he's not doing. It's that fact that you're lying about it. And it was funny here. Everybody always says, a lot of people check Grok. And Amuse, I love how Amuse does this. He says, there a First Amendment right free speech to a broadcast license? Does the FCC provide broadcasters detailed rules and regulations they must abide by? And if they violate them, they can lose their license. If they lose their license, are they being deprived of their right of free speech? And not that Grok is the end-all be-all, and I asked you guys to go ahead and do your own investigation. Grok says no. No. There is no absolute First Amendment right to a broadcast license. Game over. They're lying about their lying. Let that sink in. You've been lying about Trump, and then when they tell you stop lying about Trump, you say and lie to people and say you got a First Amendment right. You're lying in layers. Yes, it says the Supreme Court in Red Lion Broadcasting versus FCC ruled spectrum scarcity means no unabridgable right to broadcast like print media. Licenses are privileges. Privileges granted in the public interest. How many of you didn't know that? How many of you didn't know that it was a privilege to go ahead and be on television? Further, yes, the FCC enforces detailed rules under the Communications Act operate, quote, in public convenience, interest, or necessity. Plus, there's regulations on indecency from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., hoaxes causing public harm, sponsorship ID, equal time for candidates, and narrow news distortion, intentional rigging with evidence, not opinion/bias. Yes, willful, repeated violations can lead to fines, short-term renewal, or revocation denial at renewal. Here's the code, 47 U.S.C. 312. Look it up. When somebody goes after you and says, oh, you don't understand, Barry's lying, it is free speech. Go look it up. No, losing a license doesn't deprive free speech. It just ends use of public airwaves. Broadcasters can still publish via cable, internet, print, or other means. The FCC is barred from check viewpoint censorship 47.326. I knew this because I interviewed Brandon Carr. I was going to clip the entire interview, but it's long. And he said, no, it's a privilege. I knew it. If you watched this show, you probably heard me when I interviewed Brandon Carr. And he said, no, you can do anything you want on YouTube. You can do anything on Facebook. You can say whatever you want on X. Those aren't licenses. In fact, that's why they can't get involved when they're banning people and stuff, because it's a free platform. People don't understand free speech. People think it's an absolute, and it's not. It's not even an absolute in my house. It's probably not an absolute in your house. Go ahead and call your wife some name. Well, you B.I., hey, honey, it was free speech. You know it's true. Now you know it's the same for these idiots. I mean, it's amazing that this is the kind of stuff that comes out of their mouth. So Brandon Carr, once again, responded to Elizabeth Warren. Constitution, since she mentioned Constitutional Law 101, no one has a First Amendment right to a license or to monopolize a radio frequency. To deny a station license because the public interest requires it's not a denial of free speech. The Supreme Court in Red Lion, quoting NBC versus United States, 319 U.S. 227. So all the media and all the Democrats, what they're going to do is try to rile everybody up when it's already settled law by the Supreme Court. And you can go look it up. 319 U.S. 227 in the year 1943. Go look it up. Supreme Court in Red Lion, quoting NBC versus United States. It's already settled law. It's beyond the pale how much they lie, and then they layer a lie on top of another lie. And there's so many people who don't know what the hell they're looking at. And even some people that they may trust or think they're authoritative where, they wouldn't lie to me. Straight up, with a straight face, 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. They don't care about you. They don't care about America, and they don't care about you. That's what people have to understand.